The Seattle Kraken can't keep it moving in Edmonton because of, as Vince Dunn said, an awful power play.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here live from the Miami airport. And I came over here because there's a bunch of windows. But what also has happened is very much so the greenhouse effect. And I'm a little sweaty, but that's okay because we are going to talk about yesterday's game. We're going to get you ready for today's game. And that is all possible because today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I mean, Vince Dunn didn't mince words. Called the power play awful. We also heard from Dan Bylsma, who, although he didn't want the team to get too caught up in the game against Edmonton, he also did mention that the power play flat out wasn't good enough. And if we look at the instant analytics from the amazing Allison Lucan, who we haven't had on the show yet, we gotta fix that. The Kraken kept pace with Edmonton in this game, 5-on-5. The Oilers generated 2.9 expected goals, and the Kraken were just 0.4 behind that. Seattle was -3 in shots on goal and -1 in unblocked shot attempts. But as everyone basically said last night, the difference was special teams. When we look at how special teams fared, the Seattle Kraken could not get anything done, had another 5-on-3, could not convert. And it's just not utilizing the talents and the resources they have, not moving the puck. The power play was 0 for 4, and we gave up a power play goal to the Oilers. The shot attempts on the power play, both for shots on goal, the one just for Edmonton. So it's not like Edmonton had a great power play, but they had just the 1 to our 4. And when you have the ice tilted to your advantage, we talk about this all the time on Locked On Kraken, you have to be able to utilize that. And that has been a problem for the Seattle Kraken. And we're going to hear from Vince Dunn in a minute, but I just want to offer this because we know Jessica Campbell has taken up special teams, but specifically the power play. And it is something that we noticed with the Firebirds. We talked about the Firebirds a lot more last season, and I talked about how the power play at times just couldn't convert and couldn't get it done. And that seemed to get progressively worse as the team got deeper into the playoffs. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because, one, although I love Jessica Campbell, I love talking to her, she's been on the show a few times, she's amazing. I want to make sure that this is a show where we talk about all things Seattle Kraken. I went into it a little bit with Philip Grubauer, who we're going to likely see in net. Obviously no practice, so we won't hear from Dan Bylsma until right before the game, and I will be on a plane, traveling mercies, hopefully to everyone else traveling as well. But, this is a situation where, again, is it fair? I don't know if you can say it's quote unquote fair. And with the world we're living in, what do I know about fair? Anyway, you have to talk about it. And there are things with this coaching staff that, while I'm willing to give grace, this is the first time. And I do think that I don't know if you want to call it hand holding or motivation, but this Kraken team seems a little lost. And some of that is on the players. A decent amount of that seems to be on the players. And when you're in a leadership role, like a coach, you have to be able to figure out the right things to say, the right times to say the right things, or the effective things, right? Because right and wrong, who knows, but the effective thing. And I just want to keep that in mind. This is not a blame game. I, again, am all about Jessica Campbell, love talking to Jessica Campbell. And if I had had more time with her when I was in Seattle, I would have wanted to break down, what is the approach on special teams, and what is maybe a little bit of the disconnect. Now, is that something a coach is going to tell a podcaster? I don't know, but that's the conversation I would love to have, and that I hope, and I'm sure, well, I hope, I'm not sure of anything. I have no, I'm not in the locker room, so I would hope, and I think it's reasonable to expect that these are things, of course, right, that the coaches are talking about. So I just want to put that out there, because there might be, hopefully there's a way that we can break this down a little bit more. But right now, again, I hope it doesn't come off as speculation, but it is worth a conversation. Again, how is this coaching staff having to maneuver around? Is it just personnel? Is it personalities? Is it communication? But it just seems like there are a lot of things that, as the Seattle Kraken team starts to gain perhaps confidence and consistency in some areas of their game, not completely, and I think the Edmonton game is proof positive of that, there are still things that need to be tweaked. And again, I've had a lot of frustration with this Seattle Kraken team. And I have to say that a little bit of the frustration is that, again, I don't know what the right terminology is exactly, because I don't think it's that the players aren't necessarily responding well to the coaches, and I don't think that it's the coaches are not setting up the players for success. But sometimes it's a long winding road to get on the same page, and that is what it feels like is happening with the Seattle Kraken. But let's keep that on the back burner for now. I just want to note again, the coach, as far as we know, that is heading up the power play is Jessica Campbell. It has gotten better at times in stretches. Last night wasn't one of those. And here's what Vince Dunn had to say about the game, but specifically the power play.
Come back the other way on you.
Yeah, of course. We know the guys that feed their goals and their offensive abilities. They want to feel the puck the most, and when they do that, they get comfortable out there. And for the first 10 minutes, I think we slowed it down as best as we could, and then as the game went on, they got more touches. And we know we can't do that, and they're going to make us pay whenever we give them those opportunities.
You guys have been playing well coming in here. What do you feel? What do you like about the game? The way you guys have been playing coming in?
Yeah, a little bit more complete and more compete out of everyone. I think there's just still that level that we're missing, and that's why we keep coming up short with results. So I think we can keep saying we're playing good, but we obviously have to find a way to string together some wins here. It can't be up and down and streaky, so that's disappointing. I think it wasn't that bad of a game. I think it's a pretty good battle both ways, and there was definitely some opportunities where we could have capitalized and put more pucks on net and made it a little bit more difficult on them. So we can't dwell too hard. We got a big one tomorrow, so got to kind of just forget about this one.
Vince, I don't know if you covered this already. Did anything change on the power plays as far as the aggressiveness that the team was showing and other stuff?
It was awful, unacceptable, and that's on me. That's on the other guys on both units. So we got to find a way to at least build momentum and execute. There's no reason why we can't create offensive chances when we're on the power play, and it kind of feeds in everyone else's game. We let the other guys who don't get out there, we let them down, and that just transitions into our 5-on-5 play. So it's unacceptable, and we know we need to be better.
Today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's $300 to keep the action going. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoffs this season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and of course, us here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. No UMA hat. I would have loved to wear it, especially against Edmonton. And, this is a Seattle Kraken team that was able to get some goals early. You heard Vince Dunn in the first segment talk about, I forget the terminology that he used exactly, but he kind of said, we start well, or we give the appearance of starting well, something to that nature. And it goes to a little bit of what I was talking about also about coaching. There's a little bit of the motivation, the dangling carrot has not been discovered for this team, is how it feels like to me. And again, I do think you have to talk about coaching here. I'm not blaming the coaches. I think there's responsibility there. I think there is definitely responsibility with the players, and they themselves are telling us that they're not taking that on full tilt. They're not going with full energy, leaving stuff, gas in the tank, whatever you want to say. So there, you have to take responsibility as the players, and Vince Dunn does that on behalf of the team. And again, as a coach, that's kind of your job. So just something I want to keep a finger on the pulse when it comes to. But again, the Seattle Kraken got 2 goals. They did give up 1 goal to Edmonton, and then 3 unanswered. I was listening on the radio, Mike Benton and Al doing a great job again. And that's something that Al was talking a lot about. 3 unanswered goals, 3 unanswered goals, 3 unanswered goals. You lose this game 4-2, including an empty netter for the Oilers. So you heard Vince Dunn. I didn't think it was that bad of a game. Dan Bilesma pretty much said the same thing, and I think we can all say that. But the disappointment comes because had the Seattle Kraken been able to build some consistency before this part of the season, maybe they can start eking out wins. But they're not there yet. They don't have that muscle fully developed. And that's the frustrating part. These are some self-inflicted wounds. If we go back to the post-game instant analysis, 30% entry denial compared to 51% for Edmonton. Zone exits were 78%, but comparative to 90% for the Oilers. And the puck battle win, 54% to 46%. Not the worst differential that we've seen. I went off one game, but it's these things add up. They're the little things that if you do them, they compound and they can give you a better result. If you don't do them, they also compound, but negatively. And that's a little bit of, I think, what we're seeing with the Seattle Kraken. End of the season, end of the world, no. So it's all about turning the page. And we're going to see Philip Grubauer. I have every expectation that we will. What we don't want to see, and unfortunately we have seen this, is to on a back-to-back have to see Joey Daccord. Technically, he did not get a quality start in last night's game. I don't want us to, a couple of seasons ago, we talked about, did we break Martin Jones? Well, I don't want us to break Joey Daccord. So Philip Grubauer, let's help us turn the page. You have a new goaltender. You're on a back-to-back. They're going to have the home crowd celebrating the Lunar New Year. This is a time to turn the page. And I sent this over to our Kraken insiders, but a few stats that stood out to me that can help turn the page here. When you look at some of the players that have been good for the Seattle Kraken during this stretch, well, there's actually a handful of players that have scored in consecutive games here. You have Ellie Tolvanen, Vince Dunn, who we heard from, Matty Beniers, and Shane Wright. They entered tonight's contest with points in consecutive games. We also talked about stock up, stock down on Chandler Stevenson. Well, he leads active Kraken skaters in goals, 9, assists, 12, and points, 21, in 28 career games versus Anaheim. And 4 of his goals have been game winners. So this is someone who seems to have the number of Anaheim. Philip Grubauer, who we're expecting to see, 9-6-1, 238 goals against average, and a .903 save percentage in 17 career appearances against the Ducks. I didn't give you Joey Dax, his stats, I should say, as the insiders know. And again, I don't want to see Joey Daccord. No disrespect, Joey. I love you. I don't want to see it tonight. I don't want to see it tonight. Kraken have won 8 of their past 9 meetings against the Anaheim Ducks and got to go out and get this game. There's really nothing else to say. 2 out of 3. That's what we're striving for here. 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. I like what, again, Ellie Tolvanen, he's one of those players that has points in consecutive games. Shane Wright has silently been doing a lot of the good things. You know, I'm very high on his game right now. Matty Beniers, the year of Beniers, 2025 is the year of Beniers. So we're all about that. But, you know, this is a team that really has to buckle down. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, and it can get done. But, you know, this team just has to commit to that they're going to be about it. And that's, for me, and I think for the team, from what they're telling us, that's the differentiator. And that's what makes it so frustrating. It makes it so frustrating. You know, I don't know. Do you dangle a carrot? They have, you know, the families. We're on the road with them. What are the things that can be done to motivate this team? And there's a story. I haven't actually gotten around to it. Hopefully I can read it, maybe even on this trip back home. But, you know, Dan Bilesma has this library, you know, what are they calling it? The Bilesbury or something like that. The Bilesbury. I don't know. Anyway, he has a very long and extensive, or a large and extensive selection of books, a lot of them motivational books. And sometimes you got to get out of your own head. It seems counterproductive, but you got to slow things down. Take a break. I loved that the young reporter was asking, hey, what do you want to see from the team going into Four Nations? That's the next baked in break for this team. You know, as far as they can really, really take a break from hockey. And I'm hoping that will be good, that will be a return. But you can't think too far ahead to that break because there's still business to take care of. Got to get 2 out of 3 minimum. And now with last night's loss, tonight's pretty much a must-win game. So we'll talk a little bit more about what I mean when I say lean into history. And, you know, like the series, not the immediate history, because, well, that's a little bit of a different story. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up on Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance. And as one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, Select Quote has helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for the same-day coverage of up to $5 million, no medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $100 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. That's selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Select Quote. They shop and you save. All right, Seattle hockey fans, again, got to lean into history on this one. You have an opportunity to get this win against the Anaheim Ducks. And, you know, this is a Ducks team that we know is not necessarily having a great season. They're not having a great handful of seasons. But you know what? You can say the same about the Seattle Kraken. So what's going to give? Because we've got, if you will, by the Anaheim Ducks in the past. The Seattle Kraken did get the win 3-2 on November 25th, but then lost 5-2 2 days later on the 27th. So, you know, we know that this is a team that if they want, they can make problems. 23-6. The Seattle Kraken are 22-26-3. Mason McTavish leading in the last 5 games, 6 points. He's also got 5 goals. Ryan Strome with 3 assists. The power play, 30th in the league at a 13.4% clip for the Ducks. Their penalty kill is 27th. Ours is 23rd. But special teams. If you didn't like how special teams went with Edmonton, then you have to attack it. This is a team that, at least on paper, you should be able to beat. You can work on something you need to work on anyway, regardless of if you're playing Anaheim. I want to see them attack special teams hard. I want to win the special teams battle. That's what I want to see. Goals for 2.90 for the Seattle Kraken, 18th overall in the league. 2.47, that's the absolute worst in the National Hockey League for Anaheim. They don't score a lot. We want to keep it that way. Defensive errors or mishaps or lapses can't happen. One, because you don't want them to happen as much as you can prevent it moving forward, but especially when, again, you have a team on paper that you should be able to beat. Focus on your good habits. Now, goals against, they are stingy though. 3.08 compared to 3.14 for the Seattle Kraken. So not a great team. They don't score, but they also don't get scored on. And that's been a problem for the Seattle Kraken, not necessarily as of late, but historically. So we want to lean into the good part of the history. We want to lean into the numbers. We want to lean into that this team, at least on paper, compared to this Anaheim team, we've earned the advantage, right? Or the presumption that we should and can control this game. But the Kraken have to play that way. And unfortunately, we haven't always seen that version of the Seattle Kraken. So that's what I want to see in this game. You know, this is going to be a quick little episode here because I am boiling hot. If you're watching on YouTube, you might see some of the sweat collecting underneath my eyes in particular. The sun feels amazing. I'm making an observation. I don't want to say I'm complaining. I'm making an observation. But, there's really not much to say. Vince Dunn said a lot. Dan Bilesma said what he had to say about the power play, but the big message was to turn the page. Get after this game tonight. Get behind Philip Grubauer and use that crowd at Climate Pledge Arena to get the win. It's a needed win. Got to get 2 out of 3. 3 out of 4 is the same thing, basically. So you can't drop 2 in a row. The Seattle Kraken have eliminated that as a luxury, if you even want to say that. It can't be. They cannot drop 2 games in a row. So play with some desperation. I don't care who you're going up against. It's you versus you, Seattle. So let's get it done. For all of you watching and listening, be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Hold fast. Stay true. And let's go Laces. As in Laces Basketball Club. That's the hat I'm wearing because I didn't get to wear the UMA hat. It's here with me with my luggage. But in seriousness, all seriousness, let's go Kraken. Play your game. Attack the game at every turn, every shift, every period, every puck drop. Go get this game, boys. I want to wear the UMA hat tomorrow. I'll catch you on the next episode, everybody. Peace out.